It's about what can happen at a particular time and place when all the essential ingredients and pieces of the puzzle are present. In hindsight, it was a real opportunity to grab onto, and I'm glad we did. It all started when an organisation, the Two Rivers Arts Council, wanted to really look at the cultural development needs of a community. A festival evolved from that work, the Two Rivers Festival, and as you can see from these visual impressions, circus became the focus of the festival, and in turn the festival became the vehicle for developing a circus program in Gunnedah. As you can see, Circus Monoxide was our first experience with circus in Gunnedah. At the 2000 Two Rivers Festival, we were lucky to start a connection with what was then called Rainbow Circus and Sid Sidlow. The Gunnedah community were taken with a fantastic fire show on the street outside the Civic Cinema that Rainbow Circus brought to town. In 2001 and 2002, a model evolved through our partnership with Sid, where circus artists would come a week leading into the festival and run workshops with the local participants and include these local participants in the festival show. Fire performing was the first art form Gunnedah was introduced to, then stilt making and walking. This was a successful model and very popular with the young people of Gunnedah. So when Sid suggested a train-the-trainer weekend, where people who attended would learn a variety of circus skills, we were overwhelmed with the response. The weekend was amazing, and this really was one of the main pieces of the puzzle, or one of the key ingredients in growing an amazing youth circus program in Gunnedah. A very effective youth worker, a very proactive family support service, a supportive cultural development officer and community services manager to be lobbying and speaking up for youth issues and supporting the program. Having a strong umbrella organisation and someone to drive this project with lots of passion. All these ingredients present meant an opportunity to run a very productive project, and the rest is history. Out of everyone that attended the Train the Trainer, the young participants were keen to keep meeting and working on their circus skills, and when they felt ready we would start offering circus workshops to the general community. Gunnedah High School was our first customer, where we offered circus as a sports elective in 2003, with something like 150 students wanting to do it. This part of the program still runs today. Gunnedah Circus School was officially named when we were successful in receiving regional arts funding in 2003. It meant we could look at a model to really support young people to develop skills in circus as an art form. It was like an investment in the young people of Gunnedah, a real injection of skill development. The performance troupe program was one of the main essential parts to Gunnedah Circus School. Performance was a key element in attracting young people to the program and having the long-term goal of performing for their peers and their community. Train the Trainer for young people was an intensive part of Gunnedah Circus School's program, where young people were mentored in their development as a trainer in circus skills. Gunnedah Circus School had a big arm to it that provided circus classes for the general community, for the region, for special groups. We often tailored circus classes for specific needs within our community and within our region.
I love performing. I'm like centre stage sort of person. And yes, no, I love the attention.
Trips away, yeah. Sure, the trips away. Even though I missed a big one.
Which one?
Tasmania one.
Yeah. So what is it about going away that's
you learn different stuff.
Yeah, just experience. Just learning, meeting new people, learning different skills.
What do you miss about it?
Everything, really.
Trips away.
Yeah. Keeps you off the street. It's pretty bored.
Boring now.
Not doing nothing.
So you're not doing anything physical outside school?
Neither am I.
Not doing touch or anything like that? What about you, Kenneth?
No, nothing.
Welcome everybody to the Gunnedah Circus Show.
It gave me self-confidence, gave me something to work towards, that empowered me to develop myself as a person, inner and outer. It's great because it provides a niche for everybody, no matter what size, shape, skill, talent, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's got something for everybody. It's like this huge adrenaline rush, and you just being on stage and everyone's watching you, and it's like, and you know they're watching you. And even if you're in a group, you feel like they're watching each one individually as well. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Rehearsal, practice, pushing yourself to the limits. It's a balance of everything. It's great. It's got so many different components people don't see unless they get involved. Tassie was awesome. Tassie was the circus festival at Tasmania at Gunnedah Forest. And it was insane. It was so crazy, but so good. It just pushed you and pushed you and pushed you, and you just wanted. There was all this other talent surrounding you, and you were exhausted, but you just didn't want to stop.
The main thing was it was fun, and like there was always new stuff to do, and it was something to occupy like time. And I'd never played like a team sport or anything, so when I came to circus, like it was my sport, I guess, and it was like a healthy way of, like, it was fun, but it was a way to keep fit, and as well the circus troupe was kind of like a family, I guess. It was just good to have lots of people that like you could trust when it ended. Having found another sport, because I have like this thing in my mind that it has to be kind of like circus,
So do you think you'll find something like that? Or?
Well, I think the only thing close to that would be like doing a group dance or something like that. But I don't think anything could take the place of circus, so.
Well, I remember when I was about like 5 or 6, and when you always had the shows at the Two Rivers Art Festival, I always said, because I knew that you had to be like 8 or something, and I said to Mum, when I'm 8, I'm going to do circus, and she's like, whatever.
So what was appealing about seeing it at the festival?
Well, I just thought that you just learned so many new things, and I've never seen like such a wide available of skills that you could learn, and like you wouldn't be able to do it like anywhere else in Gunnedah. So I thought it was pretty special.
Yeah. Was there something that really stood out when you first?
I don't know, but I thought the flyer was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the stilts.
Was that Gunnedah people performing that, or were they professional circus artists?
A few of them, some years they were professional, and some years they were people from the circus school.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if they can do that from going to circus, it must be pretty good then.
I think having been on both sides of the coin really is that I've had older people come in and teach me, and then got to the point where I could teach other people. I think it's universally empowering for people to be able to teach, like not just teach but to teach circus skills, to be able to teach someone from such a diverse range of ages and backgrounds, to be able to pass on skills that someone else has taught you. Someone's passed me this skill and I've got so much from this skill, and now I can give it to someone else.
Gunnedah Circus School was modelled and shaped by always getting input from participants. One thing that worked, one thing that didn't, one thing you'd change. This was usually at the end of term or whenever needed. Sometimes at the end of a rehearsal process for a show or for one-off sessions. Gunnedah Circus School was shaped by the answers to these questions and from my observations and experiences. Feedback from visiting artists over the years also shaped Gunnedah Circus School.
It was dedicated to youth. It wasn't for adults necessarily, and it gave a sense of belonging, and it was very non-judgmental and just allowed your creative side to come out. Learning tricks of people who could be younger or older than you.
My life would have been a lot more boring and really not interesting, because I wasn't having the best time at school, and so without circus I wouldn't have had a place to go and be happy. I wasn't really into a sport as such, so circus kind of filled that place.
I joined for the non-competitive environment. I didn't have to have someone there telling me what to do. I got to choose what I wanted to do.
It'd be a lot boring for me because I wouldn't have much to do, because this is probably was my main sport that I did. This one was just having fun.
Experiences with circus, I don't have one specific memory because I was just involved over the years from so many different angles. And then moving on and actually becoming an independent trainer from that, that's great, and just learnt so many skills. If I didn't have circus, my life would have gone in a very downhill, self-destructive path and possibly ended in suicide, to be honest. Just circus was just a really good, you know, second home. Sometimes a first home. And it was just a great, creative, physical outlet.
Really do what we wanted but have it directed, so it was, I liked that it was a lot more, you set your own goals and you achieve your own goals and you get your own reward out of achieving the goals that you have set, as opposed to someone else saying this is how you must be and must do to have succeeded. You choose what you're going to do with it and you achieve it, and that's by your judgment, not someone else's. Everyone has time for everyone else and everyone's supportive about it. I don't think I've ever met someone in our circus group or a travelling artist or a guest artist or any other circus person who's ever said a discouraging word. Even if you know, you're with a professional artist who's crazy good at what they do, they've still got all the time in the world to sit and teach you it. They're not going to just discount you straight away. Whereas I find in other sports in Gunnedah, you know, if you're not the top of the game, then they don't have time. It's a lifelong skill, but not even just physical skills. It's just something that you will always have that can't really be sort of taken from you by anyone.
From my observations and involvement with Gunnedah Circus School, young people found belonging to the program gave them a sense of belonging in their community. I feel like all young people want to belong somewhere. It's a human need, and being a part of a group like Gunnedah Circus School gave them something back, or a sense of belonging within their community. Particularly for individuals who didn't feel like they fitted anywhere within the community, Gunnedah Circus School filled a huge hole for them in their lives. Circus is a broad range of skills, and from my experience it's the risk of a lot of circus skills that attract young people. Fire performing was one of the first skills we learnt in Gunnedah, and whilst you have to adhere to certain practices to keep it safe, I think it's the adrenaline and the risk factors that come with fire performing that attract young people, and it's a wonderful way for them to learn to take safe risks and to explore risk taking in a very safe environment, and be very satisfied out of that process. The other thing that I experienced and observe is that performance does become the key element of a circus program with young people. The art form is really the key to the journey of the participant, whether it's a workshop with a visiting artist, learning new skills, or performing in a show, or actually going and seeing a show. But essentially performance is one of the key ingredients that make it work. Being connected to a bigger circus world, because there's always other circus programs out there, so and always pathways that can be set up for individuals who want to leave country life and give circus a go in the city. It's not always successful, but there are individuals that often have the drive and commitment to make that work. But I often feel that regional rural youth are disadvantaged and marginalised by the distribution of resources for youth circuses. From my experience in Gunnedah, I often saw individuals that belong to Gunnedah Circus School being seen different by their community or by their family. I witnessed many occasions when teachers or parents or general community members might come and see a show, and then they are quite overwhelmed by the role or the talent or the skills of an individual, and often it really shifts the community's perspective of a young person, particularly if it's a young person that is often suspended from school or is involved in criminal activity outside of school. And I saw on many occasions this bring a major positive shift for a young person in a community. The other thing I notice in retrospect after leaving Gunnedah is the idea that a lot of young people saw Gunnedah Circus School as an institution, that young people unable to grab the idea that doing circus is not reliant on having the program happening in a formal sense, and then possibly an 18-year-old seeing that they've got that skill forever and can do it wherever they are. The self-discipline and drive that comes with circus, often there's a point of no return for some young people once they've decided that circus is for them, and I've seen some amazing learning processes for young people quite disengaged with their community or with school. Once they realise that they're good at a circus school, they develop an amazing sense of self-discipline to really hook into circus and into learning. In small regional communities, a lot of community development projects start out as a voluntary initiative, and some continue to be that way. But Gunnedah Circus School did start out as a voluntary initiative. Then in 2004, 2005 and 2006 it received Regional Arts Fund grants, which were instrumental in further establishing and developing Gunnedah Circus School. Finding funds to keep an established project going can be quite difficult. It's easy to get grants for one-off projects to buy equipment or to have an artist in residence. As a circus community in Gunnedah, we did look at how we could fund its existence, as the performance troupe and Train the Trainer program were free. We looked at charging a fee, but this would immediately further isolate the disadvantaged families. We wanted Gunnedah Circus School to be accessible to everybody, no regard for your income or position in your community. We looked at the idea of serious fundraising, which was achievable for one-off targets like installing the rigging points in the Gunnedah Town Hall. But in terms of its total operation, that's a big ask for families. When there's a diverse range of families in the program, it's usually only the more affluent families that have access to the resources to pull off major fundraising efforts. That's, access to networks, service clubs, resources, etc. So gaining adequate funding was a real challenge, and it continues to be a real challenge for youth circus in Australia. In terms of my reflections from my perspective, leaving Gunnedah and my role as the leader and driver of Gunnedah Circus School was about many things, and some of those I'm still discovering. But initially it was because the perfect puzzle I talked about at the beginning started to have many pieces missing, and I couldn't keep propping up the missing pieces. People leaving key positions and not being replaced. I think my role started to prop up the youth sector, and that was very draining. Being all the hats required when there isn't a second row of support to refer to or ask for resources and assistance. And their hats like, managing the program, directing a show, developing content for a show, counselling, all those elements that come with social youth circus. Working with the group regularly, there are always challenging issues that arise, whether it be conflict or tolerance. And having all the skills required to help a program run smoothly can be taxing. This program sat under the umbrella of the Two Rivers Arts Council, and unless you have a really strong, vibrant management committee, often the hands-on people start to get a little bit lost in their work, and I started to feel like there was a bit of a gap between the umbrella organisation and the hands-on people. Working in isolation from the circus industry, when you're out at the coalface working and running programs and not having enough regular contact with the outside circus industry, and training for yourself can lead to burnout and a need to top up to be able to continue to work creatively, and I feel that was a big part of my decision to leave the program in Gunnedah as well. I feel providing successful pathways for participants in rural communities and to link them to the outside circus world takes efforts above and beyond the job to make this happen and to work well. Working full-time in a program, I felt this isolated the participants from other opportunities I may have found if I was out and about in the circus world more. But in saying all that, I believe the Gunnedah Circus School coordinator role was essential to the youth of Gunnedah to express themselves and their culture, you know, their voice, their art forms. Young people need an avenue to express their thoughts and ideas about things. It makes for a healthy community self-esteem.